Battletruck, also known as Warlords of the 21st century, was just one of a gaggle of Mad Max clones that appeared in the early 80s. But unlike most Mad Max or Road Warrior-inspired post-apocalyptic epics, this one wasn't made by Italians or even Americans. This one's a co-production between New Zealand, of all places, and the UK, which was something different in the post-nuke genre at the time. The Kiwis have always been competitive with Australians, so it was little wonder that they wanted to have a crack at Mad Max. And the premise of Battletruck, as a simple prologue informs us, is that the oil wars are over, and mankind's been thrust into a kind of agrarian lifestyle, or at least in New Zealand. And it's a bit like New Zealand now, really, just sheep everywhere and not much else. Although New Zealand in the movie, of course, happens to be standing in for rural America, which is a little bit off-putting, because it does look slightly different to rural America, of course, for anyone that's been to both, but it does kind of work in a way, because everything would look a little off if everything stopped working virtually overnight. We ran out of oil and things were basically anarchy, so things would look quite a bit more like New Zealand, I guess. And most people are peaceful and living in all of these kind of egalitarian hippie communes in a kind of mini democratic system, I guess. But not everyone. Everything's all peace and love and all that jive. There's a roving paramilitary gang terrorising the countryside in the Battletruck of the title. So the Battletruck is a heavily armoured and heavily armed rig that makes the one from Mad Max 2 seem a bit uninspired and regressive by comparison. I know which truck I'd rather drive in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, but it's up to a guy called Hunter, played by Michael Beck from the Warriors, to stand up to the militia who are terrorising the sparse local populace and generally making a nuisance of themselves. So that's the premise in a nutshell. Battletruck's almost more of a monster movie than a Mad Max ripoff, I reckon, or at least it's just as influenced by Steven Spielberg's Duel as it is by George Miller's souped-up post-apocalyptic car porn. And there's a number of creepy sequences where we see the truck sneaking up on victims, quite like Bruce the Shark, and in this case the truck is still working, unlike the mechanical shark from Jaws. And Battletruck's also a lot more grounded in reality than most of the Italian or American Mad Max ripoffs. And not only do we have Michael Beck from the Warriors, we also have performances from Annie McEnroe from Beetlejuice and Bruno Lawrence from Frontline. So the casting's all over the place. It's not exactly the best of the post-apocalyptic Mad Max clones, but by no means is it the worst either. And the social commentary to be found in Battletruck's pretty much the same as all these films from the post-apocalyptic genre, namely that violence is usually unavoidable and it usually solves everything, at least as far as these films are concerned, or something. And I reckon this film would make a good solid double bill with The Quiet Earth, which is a much better Kiwi post-apocalyptic entry for those of you after that sort of thing, and also starring Bruno Lawrence. And I reckon something nice to enjoy with this one would be some nice crumbed New Zealand lamb cutlets and a nice glass of Hawke's Bay Syrah. So that's Battletruck from 1982. I'd strongly recommend that you check this one out. And as always, thanks for joining me here on Fulci Metal Jacket, where we explore film from the outer fringes of the mainstream, film that loiters and lurks on the outer fringes of the mainstream. If you are enjoying this content and you're still here at this point, please like, share and subscribe. Happy to hear your comments about Battletruck if you have any, or about any of these post-apocalyptic movies. It's always great to get a bit of feedback so that it doesn't feel like I'm simply shouting into the void. But here we cover all kinds of cinema. We cover B-movies, exploitation, art house movies, horror, you name it. We cover it, blaxploitation, the list goes on. Pretty much just the kind of films that do lurk and loiter just outside the mainstream, the kind of movies that we all grew up with in the early days of video, and also the odd recent release that does fall into similar categories, similar themes. We've got a bit of a back catalogue of reviews as well. So if you are enjoying this content, please like, share and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.